To see how coaching feels, if you've not been through a coaching program before, even if you have, I hope this exercise will be interesting. I thought we could explore a coaching tool that I quite often use with clients. And it's a tool that helps us see where we'd most benefit from focusing our attention across the different areas of our life, and just to see where there may be some gaps from where we are now to where we want to get to, and then what steps we can take. If you've got your pen and paper, just to write down the following 6 areas of life, and then I'll explain what to do with them. So these are 6 areas that we all typically experience in some way or another. So the first one is family and relationships. Number 2 is work. Number 3 is service. Number 4 is health and exercise. 5 is spiritual well-being. And number 6 is self-development. The way that you interpret each of these will be different for each of you. Work may mean a paid job. It may mean voluntary work. It may mean the work that you do in terms of caring for the family unit. So whatever that means for you is relevant and resonant. Service, that's another one that can sometimes will have like different interpretations for each of us. So service may mean doing voluntary work again. It may mean the way that you care for your family unit. It may mean the way that you support colleagues at work. It may mean giving your time up to help friends. Whatever it means for you is relevant. And again, sort of spiritual well-being, regardless of whether you have a core faith or agnostic, whatever comes up for you is what's relevant. The goal here is to understand the relative dominance or weighting for each of us right now of these 6 areas. So the invitation on a big sheet of paper, if you can, just sort of hold a moment as I explain, but is to draw a circle for each one to depict the relative value and priority each one has in your life right now. So the things that feel they've got the greatest priority will have the biggest circles, and the things that feel they have the least priority will have the smallest circles. You can draw them however you want. It might end up being a Venn diagram. It might end up being disparate circles. You might cluster them, like whatever feels right for you. And the only thing here really is just to be really honest with yourself. So do it really intuitively and just see, like, how does it feel as you draw each of these circles? And I'll just give you a moment just to draw and feel into what it's like to see the relative weighting each one has. And as you draw them, just note down any observations that come to mind. So are there any thoughts or feelings you're noticing in your body? Are there any particular words or memories that are coming up as you're drawing the circles? What's leading you to draw each one in that particular size in relation to the other circles? And as you look at them, I'm just going to ask a series of very open questions. And as thoughts arise, you may want to jot them down just so that you've got this to refer back to later. I mean, it's a lovely exercise to return to, and I'll share my experience of doing this after we've completed it. Just as you're looking at these circles, are there any surprises here? And there's no judgment, there's no good or bad, there's no right or wrong answer, there's no perfect way to draw these circles, just observations of what is. We're taking a really compassionate observer stance. So are there any surprises? Is there a greater or lesser balance between each area than you expected to see? Is it raising any other thoughts for you connected with these areas? Are there any actions that have popped into your head that made you think, are there any needs being left unfulfilled here? Are there any needs that are really dominating? Or are there other things in your life that feel like they need to be represented here? And if so, represent them. You may even want to draw another circle to represent some other part of your life. And if, as you're looking at them, it may be that they look relatively balanced, that can be the case, but they don't feel quite balanced. Or it may be that something looks out of balance, but it feels okay for you. Again, what does that tell you? If you're noticing anything in your body as you're looking at them, just jot that down as well. Is that giving you any more data? Now, ordinarily in a coaching conversation, this would be a two-way process. So I would be listening to your responses, and perhaps we'd explore what's coming up for you in different ways. But obviously here, this is you as self-coach. And to be honest, that's often an incredibly useful stance because you know yourself better than anybody else ever can. So we're now going to do the second part of the process. On a fresh piece of paper, we're going to redraw the circles to depict how you would like them to look going forward. And you choose the time frame, whatever that phrase going forward means to you. And the circles may look very different from how they look today, or they may look very similar. Whatever feels right. And again, as you draw these second set of circles, just note down any thoughts that come up, and including if you notice the voice of judgment coming in at all, then it can be useful just to jot it down. Jot down what it's saying. You don't need to believe it. You don't need to listen to it. But it can be useful to acknowledge it because, again, that can be really useful data. Similar set of questions for you here. Are there any surprises? Is anything really standing out for you in terms of the difference between the today and the tomorrow circles? Can you see any changes that you may want to explore in order to help you shift from the today to the tomorrow? Another lovely question to consider here is who could help you? And also, how might this shift influence others, and how might that then influence you? Just seeing what role other people might inadvertently or advertently play in moving towards these tomorrow circles. And how does it feel just to look at what you've drawn tonight? And this process is really one of listening to our inner voice. And Rebecca mentioned earlier about the book of poetry that I've written, My Darling Girl, which is really about listening to my inner voice. That's where it all came from. And the process of doing these kind of exercises is really about just noticing what is coming up. Again, we don't have to listen to what it says, but it's about noticing it and then seeing, okay, how does that feel for me? And what do I choose to do with it?